Hi, today we'll discuss about the temporary tables, which is one of the important concepts in T-SQL. Okay, so before that, what is a temp table? Okay, and what is the difference between the generally created table as a part of create and T-SQL, and what is the difference between temp table? So, as the name indicates, temp table is just a temporary storage space or temporary structure to store the data. Suppose while you are creating a store procedure, you need to store customer information or the product information for some period while executing the query and discard it afterwards where you are not affecting your base tables. You use something like a temporary table. Okay, so there are two types of it when it comes to temporary tables. One is a local temporary table, and the other one is a global temporary table. And there is also something called table variable, which is mostly used with the functions to get the output as a table result set. Okay, so first we'll see the local and the global and the table variable, then we discuss more about them. Another important point, both these temporary tables and the table variable are created in the tempdb data space. So the another distinction is like you will see a hash sign for the local temporary table and a double hash sign for the global temporary table. Again, they are being created in the temporary table, which is like a temporary space for all the operations in the SQL server. So you will not find it in your home database or from wherever you're creating it. A temporary table is created and maintained in the temp table. Okay, but whereas for the table variable, it is created in the temporary table, but the collation will be of the type of the your, for example, if you are using adventure works, it's of a collation 1252, and if your temp table is different, when you create a table variable, the table variable will be of the collation 1252, uh, but whereas the other temporary table like the global and the local will be of the default collation of the temporary database itself. This is important when your collation is different for your application database from the temp database, because this might cause some problems. Okay, so let's start. Here I am creating a person temporary table. Okay, it basically stores the person information. In this case, it just ID, first name, last name, and the email promotion. Okay, the ID, the business entity ID, which is like a primary key. So how you define the temporary table is from the first statement. Like you generally define it as your base table, and once you define it, I'm using an insert into statement. Okay, and then a select statement. So create table person. Okay, you see this hash sign, so that denotes that it's a temporary table. And as I said, I have four columns: ID, which is of type in first name, is of n varchar 30, last name n varchar 30, email promotion is again int. So create table person, like a number sign person, brackets open, and whatever columns you want to define with column one, data type one, comma column two, and close the bracket. That's the syntax of the temporary table. Okay, here I'm creating a person table. Okay, so let me create this table. Okay, so I created the table. Now I'm trying to insert into the person table. So how I'm doing that? Insert into number sign person, select, and with all the values I want to pass. There are four columns, so I'm writing four columns in the select statement, so I can pass values to all the columns. In case your columns differ, you can just declare explicitly after person what are the columns you want to define, and then change your select statement to match with the columns which you want to pass the values. Okay, so here I'm just running the insert and select statement, which is basically I'm trying to get the people with the last name Smith. That's my condition, so I'm trying to run it. So as you can see, 103 rows affected. So now I'm doing select star from temporary table. You can see that it's again having number sign. So I'll see if I can able to read the data. See, the persons with last names are populated into the temporary table, and as I can see, it's 103 rows here. 103 rows here, so it's all good. So I created a temporary table, inserted the data into it. So one more distinction here is see here this is session 66. I'm running the select star from person. I'm able to read the data. So I open one more session, which is 69. You can see the number 69 here. I'm trying to read the data from the temporary table created in another session. I cannot because that's limited to that session, and it doesn't understand the person table because it's created and used here. Okay, so that is the difference between local and temporary, global temporary table. You will see that here. So this one is again, I'm creating a global one, not the local one. So this can be used by other sessions and other users, so that's why it's called global. Here it's the same syntax, but only difference is you will see two number signs instead of one. So create table, two number signs and the same syntax. Here I'm for distinction, I just want to get the persons with the last name as 4. So create table as a number sign person. Again, the four columns: ID of int, first name of n varchar 30, last name of n varchar 30, email promotion of int, bracket open, bracket close. So here I'm creating the table with this first line. Okay, so I created the global temporary table, and after that I would like to insert the data, which is insert into, this should be two number signs. So I would like to insert the data into the global temporary table. And again, I'm having 4 columns, so I'm inserting the data into all 4 columns. So as you can see, it's only 3 people who has the last name as 4. So I'm trying to execute in this session 66 because I created the global temporary table here and I can read the data. So likewise, I can go here and I can say select star from person. So here you can see I can read the second table, but not the first table. Okay, so first one it's trying to execute. I'm just executing this one. This is a global temporary table, so it can be used by session 69, even though it is created in 66. I'm going to the next thing, which is a table variable. Table variable is, there is a distinction before, if you see, you are using a create statement for creating the table here. For the local or the temporary, create table with the 2 number signs and 1 number sign. Here, if you are seeing, it's not creatable, but it's a declare. It's like a variable. You are declaring a variable which is of type table. So here I'm declaring a person table. As you can see, this is the table. And again, the 4 columns with the 4 exact same data types, which I used above. So here, only one point to remember, you are declaring the syntax is declare table at the rate table name. You declare explicitly table. So give the columns that you want. Okay. Now I'm doing the same thing, which is above statement, but here I'm trying to insert into person and persons with the last name as Wood. Okay, so the temp tables are denoted are shown by person. Number sign. Here you can see at the rate, which is used for variable. Okay, so I'm trying to declare. So I'm trying to create this table. So it created successfully. Now I try to insert the data. Okay, that's a mistake because I'm running it as an two statement. So before it doesn't find the reference for the table, so that's why it says it couldn't find the table. So I'm declaring the table and I'm also using it in a single statement so it understands what the table is. So it's like exactly like the variable. Okay, so you need to declare it and use it in the same, so it knows what's a variable. Okay, so here I'm trying to use select star from person. Okay, so you will see that what's the data populated. So you can see it again if I'm going here and I'm saying select star from person, because it doesn't understand uh, what is the person table. So it says you must declare the table variable. So this is used within the session itself, and you have to um, complete in one single session. So now let's go to system databases, and you can see the tables created as a part of temporary tables. Okay, so as you can see, it's person. These are the two temporary tables because declare table variable, it's already executed, so it might have been deleted. But for now, you just see a person which is created here, which is the first one we created, and the one with the two numbered signs, it's a global temporary table which can be used by other sessions and other users as well. So what is the distinction? Coming to the question of distinction between temporary tables and temporary tables, and what's our best uh, uh, process or best guidelines to use it. So if your data is small and it's a simple, then you can use table variable. But if it is a large table, you are dealing with millions of rows, then it is suggested to use the temporary table. So small and simple table variable, large set of data, use the temporary tables. Okay, and again, local and global depends on your business logic, but in general case, it's a local temp. Okay, so another distinction is like temporary tables are just like your real tables. So that means when you are dealing with the large data sets, you can actually create indexes, non-clustered indexes. So you can make them faster. Okay, whereas in the table variable, you can create a primary key. So there is a clustered index, but for the non-clustered index, if your queries need non-clustered index, then you cannot create in the table variable before 2014. I think from the 2014 you can also include non-clustered indexes as well on the temporary tables. Sorry, on the table variables, but temporary tables are just like your base tables. You can create all the indexes you want. So another common use is like you generally use table variables with the functions. So it will be appropriate when you want to send the result set using the functions. You rather use table variable than the temp table because they go hand in hand. So I hope these differences will help you to understand where and when you have to use the temporary tables and the table variables. But this concept of temporary tables is very important when you are actually working with large sets of data and you want to store the data within the stored procedure and complete your business logic and discard the table. So this is the way you do it. I hope this helps you to understand the temp tables better. We'll see you next time. Bye.